Good morning. I said good morning, Steven. Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, friends and family. We're going over Albedo, noob to pro, everything that I've learned. And well, since his launch, we've been using the guy on the channel here because we love Geo as an element, and we're here to share this knowledge with you. Artifact sets, weapons, tips on how to actually use him in combat and what that's going to mean for you, and maybe a little bit of rumors on the horizon. Is obviously we're coming into even more Geo characters, more Geo-based weapons, more Geo-based artifacts in the future. We're going to touch on that stuff as well.
If you guys are playing War of the Visions or Brave Exvius and you're not using the Amazon App Store version of the game, there's no reason not to, especially if you're making in-app purchases, because the App Store and Amazon coins are going to save you up to 20%. We're sponsored by Amazon in the App Store today. You can save up to 20%, especially if you use my special promo code down below. I'll have it linked in the description of every video for you guys, and it's not that hard to swap over. You simply need to go into your menu in your settings for either FFBE or War of the Visions. Make sure that your accounts are synced to the account email of your choice. If you're buying anything in-app, there's no reason not to save up to 20% on your valuable real-world money. So go ahead and check that out. Thank you once again for that sponsorship, and let's get into the content.
And as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you hit the sub button, join the family, let that little ring-a-ding-ding bell ring loud as well. Now, Albedo, you guys know him, you guys love him, a lot of you guys missed him as well. You know him for his big E-proc, some nice damage with his good old Elemental Burst as well. He also has nice Elemental Mastery buffs, which you've seen in Hu Tao teams, other sort of reaction-based teams where he's just doing damage off the field, comes back in, surprise everyone with his little flick of the wrist, and then goes back into hibernation because, well, you know, he's a little bit of a homuncular in nature there. So a lot of cool stuff to do with good old Albedo. So what is the stuff that you're looking at as far as artifacts and weapon selection? Let's tackle this first and foremost. Now, there's going to be one weapon that we're going to go over right now that is ease of use for everyone. You've probably heard about it. It's the Harbinger of Dawn. Why does this work so well for Albedo? Well, Albedo, his E build is based entirely off of his defense on the proc. That's what we care about the most. The skill damage is attack based, but the proc is defense based here. So the low weapon attack from a 3-star weapon, you don't really care about this 401 base attack. What you do care about is the 46.9 crit damage, and then the passive here, 3-star weapon. You can get some of these from the good old gacha. Get it to R5. When your HP is above 90%, your crit rate is increased by 28%. So why is this so powerful? Well, like we said, most of the time, Albedo is going to drop that flower. You're going to swap to somebody else out there, and then you're going to have that nice maintained a 90% HP value, especially if you have someone to maybe shield them like Zhongli or Noelle, or heal them back up like Noelle or any other healer in the game to keep him at that 90% HP threshold, including even in something like corrosion status, right? Cleanse that corrosion, heal him back up over and over and over while he's off the battlefield, and that's going to do wonders for you, and that's where a lot of his damage is going to come from. And so having a weapon like this, ease of build, right? Crit damage and crit rate at the same time, fantastic. 68.8 and over 200% crit damage here in this build here as well. Now, other weapon selections that you can think about here in the grand scheme of things, there's really one other weapon that I would really think about using over Harbinger of Dawn, or if you don't have Harbinger of Dawn, if you were around back in the day, you have the Festering Desire as well. This is going to give you elemental skill damage increased by 32% and 12% crit right here. So this is also going to give you 45 energy recharge. That's okay, but Albedo's Elemental Burst only costs 40 energy. Got a 12-second cooldown. If you're having a hard time filling this up in time for that 12 seconds, maybe look at the good old Festering Desire. But the Festering Desire is going to help out your crit rate for your elemental skill, but not your elemental burst. But that's not it. It's also going to have that 32% elemental skill damage. So it's kind of like 32% geo damage strictly for your elemental skill, which affects both when you plan it in the procs as well. So a very nice weapon for him. And then last but not least, we'll cover this when we go into the gameplay thing. If you have the Mistsplit Reforged, you can go for this build here, especially if you have C6 Bennett, so you can get all of the benefits of this weapon. And this is going to give you very hard-hitting elemental skills as well as elemental bursts. So it's going to kind of be like the true sort of hybrid Albedo build, but it's a lot of work for a little bit of extra payoff at the end of the day. But if you want to go brand new, free to play, you've been around Festering Desire, go for it. Harbinger of Dawn, fantastic weapon as well. Now, when it comes to artifact sets, there's really 3 sets in the game right now that you can think about running on him. And it's going to be a little bit of a mixture of a couple of them. So one of the first ones here is the good old archaic Petra set. The 2-piece here, geo damage plus 15%, This affects his elemental skill, all of it, as well as his elemental burst. Now, the fourth piece here you can utilize in sort of a team composition with a pyro character, a hydro character, and an electro character. If you pick up one of these different crystals that you make from the geo-related reactions on Albedo himself and then swap into that character, so you pick up a pyro crystal, swap into a pyro character, 35% bonus damage of that element for everyone in your party that is that element. So pyro, all pyro characters get pyro damage up. That's going to be awesome. Now, this is a little bit tricky to use, so a lot of players opt not to do the full piece, and that's fine. The other set that you can utilize here with him is going to be none other than the good old Noblesse Oblige set here. Now, the 2-piece here, elemental damage bonus plus 20%. So this works with his elemental damage bonus, including the little sort of chain reaction things that happens afterwards. And the 4-piece here, for 12 seconds, you get a 20% attack buff for your whole party. And as you know, his elemental burst has a 12-second cooldown, so you can have this up theoretically full time if you're swapping him in on cooldown every 12 seconds to pop off his elemental burst. Your whole party is going to get that 20% attack buff there. What you can do with these two sets, though, is you can mix the 2-piece of the Archaic Petra and 2-piece of the Noblesse Oblige, so you get 15% geo damage and 20% elemental burst damage. Now, there's going to be one other set that you can run him on, and this is going to be the Tenacity of the Millisect set. Now, this is a full support set. This doesn't really boost up his damage at all that much. So the 2-piece here, HP percent, Albedo doesn't care about HP percent. The 4-piece here, though, is when an elemental skill hits an opponent. This counts for when you actually use his elemental skill, or if it procs while he's off the battlefield. This can still work because this says this effect can still be triggered even if you're off the battlefield and equipped with this set. And this is going to give all party members 20% attack for 3 seconds. That's fine. You say 3 seconds, that sucks. Albedo's very good at this, though, because the cooldown on triggering his AoE detonations from his solar isotoma area is 2 seconds. So he's very, very good at applying this 100% of the time. You lose some damage here, but you gain some damage on the rest of your characters there. Now, you may or may not want to run this set. I like running this set. I also got some very nice rolls on this set, so I'm using it for a full support Albedo right now. And as far as the good old stats on your artifacts here, what you're looking for is either a crit rate or a crit damage circlet. Balance your stats out, try to keep that 2-to-1 ratio, hit at least like 50% crit rate. Not that hard to do if you're using the good old weapon that we talked about earlier, the 3-star one. Goblet here is going to be a geo goblet, elemental skill, elemental burst, going to be our geo damage. So you're going to want a geo goblet there. And then obviously you're going to want a defense percent sans for that maximum E damage. The most damage that you're going to be doing with Albedo in the long term of fights is going to be from his E. His elemental burst is based off of his attack, but his elemental skill here is 100% defense, and that thing has a wild uptime. Every 2 seconds it's detonating and it can hit an AoE, so that's fantastic there as well. Now for substats here, as always, when you're trying to do damage, crit chance, crit damage is your forte there. And then if you get some defense percent, as you can see here, that is very nice as well. So for crit chance, crit damage, maybe a little bit of energy recharge. You don't really need elemental mastery. You don't need HP percent. Attack is okay because it's going to help out your elemental burst damage and planting the flower, but the vast majority of your damage is coming from that elemental skill. Now we'll touch on them real quickly because this is just rumors at this point in time, and this is not like a crazy video about rumors and stuff, but I did want to put it in here because as of the time of recording, it's still out there, it's floating around. Word on the street is there's going to be a defense-oriented geo set, and it's going to be a monster for Albedo. So if you're farming up stuff, pre-farm for him. Maybe you want him to be rerun, you don't have him yet. I wouldn't pre-farm any of this stuff. I would wait to see if that new set is insane. And word on the street is there's going to be a weapon that is free that's going to blow away the Harbinger of Dawn as well. It's going to be a defense-oriented weapon with a proc that increases your elemental skill damage by a lot of damage there. It's going to add a lot of extra damage from the procs on your elemental skill. And if that sort of information is going to hold true and be correct, it might be resin efficient for you guys to hold off, especially if you don't have Albedo right now. See what that stuff is before you put all your time and effort into trying to farm up artifacts and leveling up your weapons in case that stuff is true. Now, when it comes to Albedo, there's a couple little tricks on getting a little bit of extra damage from him, maybe a little extra particle generation from time to time. And this is because you can reset that 2-second cooldown on proccing his AoE by replanting the flower. So we'll attack this guy here, 19k, plant it again, and then attack him again for 21k. Why was the second one larger, you would ask? Well, remember, in his talents, we have a good old calcite might here, which is going to increase your damage against enemies who have below 50% HP, so 25% more damage increase there from damage up. So 19k to 21k there on our full support Albedo, which is a large amount of damage. Remember, that can hit in AoE as well. So just plant, get him out of there, not crit, big sad, and then just let him go the way of the dodo there. Now to show you the Mist Splitter sort of meme build, true hybrid thing you can do here. Here's the Mist Splitter Reforged, and it gives you 12% elemental damage bonus for just being equipped, and you get 1, 2, and 3 stacks. Albedo can naturally get 2 of these stacks by casting your elemental burst and having your energy be less than 100%. And then on top of that, the third stat comes from dealing damage with a normal attack that deals elemental damage. Now, one of the ways around this is using someone like Bennett or Chongyun to infuse his damage with Pyro or Cryo, do a normal attack, and then cast your elemental burst. If you go into our stats here, look at our good old Geo damage up. We have 87. This is from our 12% from our weapon for all elemental damage up, on top of our Geo Goblet, and his stat scaling on Ascension is going to be Geo damage as well. So we're at 87 right now, but we don't have any stacks of this. So let's go ahead and let's do some stacks here. Let's throw down Albedo. It's a little thing here. It's going to auto attack, throw this down, and then cast the elemental burst. Boom, 69k. And then we have a whopping 115% Geo damage here, which means that our procs are going to be pretty significant. 25k procs. So this is higher than we had before on our procs with the 3-star weapon. We also have a pretty significant attack here due to the good old Bennett elemental burst here. So it's going to allow us to do our true hybrid build. We're building defense, but we get some attack. We also get a lot of Geo up as well from having these stacks. And it's just a kind of a magnificent little hybrid build that you can do if you happen to have this 5-star weapon. Now, as far as team compositions that you can do, there's going to be more than this in the future. We have more Geo artifacts, weapons, and even characters. We've seen some of the MiHoYo pre-leaks already. 2 more Geo characters coming down the pipeline. But you could do stuff like the Raw Power Team, as I've dubbed it. All Geo in Bennett. You can do Geo in Raiden Shogun. You can do Geo in the Electro Traveler to batter everyone. You can do full Geo, throw Ningguang in there. I'm sure you can do full Geo in the future. Another popular team for him is going to be something like this with Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Zhongli, and Albedo. Basically, Albedo, you can throw him anywhere. He's got that 125 elemental mastery buff up, which is going to help out Pyro characters, Hydro characters, Cryo characters. If you're doing any form of Vaporize or Melt, you can also get in there and help out good old, what do you know about it? Fantastic animal characters and swirl builds as well, electrocharge builds. You can throw him in there and do just a whole bunch of stuff. There's not a bad slot for Albedo, which is why many people really adore this character. He's just free damage, free support. Whatever you do with him, you can do really no wrong. And you can also buff up his own damage by just including ×2 Geo Resonance. Albedo and someone else, they're gonna be buffing up each other's damage, like Zhongli, like Noelle, like Ningguang, maybe Ito and Goro in the future, to do this sort of strong backbone core that you can do in Genshin Impact, and it's a very wonderful thing. I have definitely had too much coffee to drink today.